some of the designers right now, they're, looking where they are and kind of where they want to go. And I always right now say, look, just get as good as you can at what you're doing. If you're at the point where you're as good as you can get, it's easier to have those conversations, because an employer, most of the time, no one's ever going to say, we will never pay you a dime more.
Welcome to the South Cypress Podcast, where members of the design community share their stories, knowledge, and expertise. I'm your host, Brandon White. Today, I'm joined by Tim O'Brien. Tim is the Director of Sales and Business Development at Innerspaice Architectural Interiors right here in Birmingham. Tim has been a part of the Birmingham design community since 2001 and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to anyone that works with him. We had a wide-ranging conversation, including navigating the work-from-home hybrid workplace, the importance of acoustics and ergonomics in furniture selection, how the furniture industry works, books we're reading, and what it's like to develop relationships in a new place. Tim has become a fast friend in the industry, and I was honored that he was willing to be our guest. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the South Cypress Podcast. It's really great to have you again. I think this will be episode number 8, and I've just been so honored by the people that have listened and checked it out and given feedback. And so thank you so much for listening or watching, whichever one that you're doing. We really appreciate you tuning in and checking this out. And my hope is that this continues to be a resource for the design community. I've said over and over again that rule number 1 for this podcast is that it's not about flooring. If you want to hear about flooring, you can pick up the phone and give me a call, and I'll talk your ear off about it. It's not about products. This is for the design community, and it's a place for them to share their stories, skills, and experiences. And that's what we want it to be. And today I'm really excited. I've got a good friend of mine, Tim O'Brien from Innerspaice, on the podcast. And
Brandon,
Tim,
hey.
Yeah, just so glad to have you, Tim. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and just making another like-minded friend in the industry, and have just really appreciated getting to know you, man. So thanks so much for being willing to chat with me and jump on the podcast today.
Man, absolutely. Pleasure is mine. That you would invite me is awesome. And again, I think that just you doing this is so valuable just in our community. It's not everybody's doing it. And what you're bringing is just value. So again, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. Well, you're most welcome. And there, IIDA has a good podcast now that
Yes.
just came out, and I love hearing that. So if you like this one, you should check out the IIDA Alabama podcast as well. And I'll try to link it in the show notes for people that haven't found it. But Mark and Chad are doing a great job with
unbelievable. The level of what's being talked about from the designers, and then just their humor. I mean, it's without a doubt definitely worth jumping into.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, well, cool. Well, Tim, let's talk about you, man. You were somebody that I just wanted to have on the podcast. I didn't even have a specific topic to talk about. I just thought, man, Tim would be a great guest. And so I'd love to hear more about you. And then we can get into some of the nuts and bolts of the furniture industry and things like that too. But maybe to start with, how about you just share a little bit about where you're from and kind of how you got plugged in with the A&D world originally.
The A&D world of Birmingham. Yeah. And it's goes back to St. Louis. I was living in St. Louis and actually was trying to be a rock star, was going around touring, but I needed a job. So I got into a rug cleaning company, and relationships. I think if there's any word you're going to hear me say a lot in this talk, it's definitely relationships. Was working on a couple projects with somebody, said, hey, there's a job opening at a textile company. And would you want to be it? So I became a business manager for Design Textiles in St. Louis for their showroom. And it's one of those, I loved it, but I certainly did love it. But I saw these sales reps that were going out and about, and they were looking, bringing all these textiles to all these A&D firms. And at first, I'm like, man, that's easy. They live the life. They're going around, they're showing these products, taking them out to lunch. Yeah, I kind of want to do that. And, man, I did not realize what you see and then what's underneath the water, swimming like in a duck. And, but
not all fancy lunches and happy hours.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. And so I wanted, but all the positions were filled in St. Louis. So I teed up to Design Tech, said I'd like to get into sales. and they had a position open in Birmingham. And they said, look, I know you don't know anybody there, but we're more than willing to invest in you to go on down. And so I did. Moving down to Birmingham, I was given two names from a steel case dealer here at the time, Bodine. And I got my apartment, called them, and started setting up shop with design techs and learning how I was doing everything wrong, I'd say, when I was going out there trying to book appointments, get in front of people. One thing that I do remember is we came out with these new wool products, these beautiful, lush, organic textiles. And I went to a design firm and I was killing it. I was just showing them, talking about the double rubs, the complexity of the product, the construction, how it applies. And then I said, is this something that you could use? And they're like, well, we're strictly healthcare, so we would never even think of using something like this. And, the moments like that, I walk away feeling not necessarily like a failure, but I really screwed up. And I guess luckily I've been, how do I get better at that? So those lessons learned, checking off, it's not just about taking people to lunch. It's not just about doing happy hour.
Well, I can totally relate to that, man. I remember the first time that I showed up with a bunch of wood flooring samples to a healthcare firm, and I learned the exact same lesson.
I mean, spot on. Yes. There's not
you
even.
Just got to do it. That's the only way to learn. So.
Yeah, exactly right. And and now those people that are still involved in this industry, I'm very good friends with. So we're able to work through those things for sure.
So how old were you when you made that move to Birmingham?
26. I was 26 years old. And
so you were still early in your career. That was a heck of a move to say, I'll pack my bags and move down to Birmingham where I don't know anybody and a new job that I've never done before. Like, how did that feel to make that decision? And then what was it like getting connected and all that sort of thing?
And I think now all of this is in hindsight, so I'm able to kind of see patterns in my life. But I noticed that, like, I wanted to be a rock star. I went to Boston to go to college, and then I decided to move to St. Louis because I'm originally from Central Illinois, and I could go to Indianapolis, I could go to Nashville, I could go Iowa City, Iowa, Chicago. I could play this kind of little circuit, but I was doing that on my own. And so I've always noticed I have somewhat of a independent feel to me. And so it made sense at that time. Is always, and people that I talk to today in our industry, it seems like when you try to find a path, the universe has a way of, at least giving you signs, testing you. And when I looked at Birmingham, at the same time, two of the people up in New York with Design Techs offered me a marketing position and then an executive assistant position. And so, that's any of those positions I was about to make was going to be pivotal. And, really had to kind of walk through them. And, coming to Birmingham, all of them, I think I'd have a little bit more connection to New York, but going to Birmingham, it just felt right. I like that challenge of growing, I think just myself, but also, working with these design firms. One of the things that I love about our A&D is they love consistency. And when I was first calling on these firms with design techs, I couldn't see the high level people. They were putting me with some of the newer ones because I hadn't been vetted. They didn't know me. And what I realized I could benefit from that was one, join IIDA and become involved. And then the second thing was a lot of these younger designers, newer, were not getting as much attention from some of the more seasoned rep, from those. So, creating relationships with them. Friday afternoons, a lot of times people were kind of inching towards the weekend. I noticed there were no other reps out there hitting it. So I kind of made that my priority. Sometimes I would just go in a firm and we would just kind of talk about life in general. Other times business would come up. And so I was trying to find kind of in my own way how to be successful with that. And that's kind of the school of hard knocks part. And then the other side, there's so many mentors I have in this industry, certainly from the design tech side around the country at that time, but just other reps here that I really looked up to. And certainly ones that identify, I see they seem to be really doing a good job, natural feel, and just trying to understand how they're doing it and works for them. And when I was with, oh, come on.
Question about that, if I can. So I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast are pretty early in their career and they're thinking through, okay, how do I connect with more people? How do I have some of those mentor type relationships? What did it look like for you in that new market to start to connect with some of those other reps and just build those relationships and, connect with people that you could learn from? Like, what were the nuts and bolts of how you went about that?
Frustrating at first. I think because again, they don't know me. A lot of times that happened with IDA events, and you just got a drink in your hand. Hey, I'm Tim. Kind of nice to meet you. Just very high level. 30,000 foot kind of just talking. And what I found is if you go up to 7 of them and talk to them, one may give you a really good response. And so instead of pining why I'm not connecting with these people, well, okay, here's someone that I could start this with. That's it's easier for me. And that's kind of what I found instead of kind of beating my head against the wall all the time. Man, I wish I could get in with this person's the real deal, and they're kind of showing they don't have time for me. So it was a matter of finding people that I could work with. And then over time, a lot of those people that I at the time had looked up to, we ended up, slowly but surely just kind of becoming in the industry. And I get consistency, I think, is the thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's kind of the word of the year for us at Innerspaice. My boss, Harvey McCain, he said, just the one thing I think we try to come up with something is just consistency. Everything we do with merit. And so with A&D and design techs, I was doing really well, as well as I could. And for a couple of years, what I felt I hit, probably wasn't going to be able to get much more monetarily. It's no problem to say we do this for the money.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. It's and that's something design techs taught me. The owner at the time, or the president, Tom, he told me, hey, it's okay to want money, to be the thing. And then get through relationships, I was able to get the Herman Miller position, which is a manufacturer's rep for a furniture company, and did that for 5 years. It was a lot of travel for me. I think within the first week of signing with them, my wife had our first child, and so she also worked for
things.
Yeah, correct, yes, and she had a position that sent her all over the country, and so we were juggling, and then we had another kid, and kind of looked at the same thing. It's when you're a manufacturer's rep, you work with a dealer and the A&D itself, which was awesome. Had an opportunity with Milliken, Brad Dahl, one of those first people that I met that was very, very kind and reaching out, helping me. He'd been the Milliken rep for a long time. He moved up in his role. So he approached me, said, I'd like you to take it. And so that led me into kind of a little bit of your world on the soft side, and then the LVT side. And that was great. That gave me a little bit more control over my schedule. Same time, my successes were nowhere in Birmingham as much as it was on the far parts of the coast. And then that kind of, as much as I liked that, the travel was getting a little bit too much for work-life balance. And that's kind of gravitated me back toward the furniture world and locally on the dealer side. Yeah. And then, so, now I've been with Innerspaice for almost 3 years, and that's where we've met. I mean, that's, and that's, getting to work with the sales team and designers. At the same time, our business is very A&D, always surrounds that. And then a bunch of other furniture vendors out there. In fact, I think you and I were talking about how you can look at a chair and see that there's probably 30 or 40 different parts or pieces. And each one of those is a plastic manufacturer that had a rep that went to the actual assembly plants and said, hey, we'll use our plastics. The casters are bought from somewhere. And, that's what I'm always reminded. I tell people is there's so many avenues for a great life in our industry, whether it be on that design side, it be on the sales side. There's so much to offer. It's great. And this industry continues to give back.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah. The first time that it clicked with me that I was in a room and somebody picked out the base molding and somebody picked out the doorknobs and somebody picked out the paint color and somebody picked out the light fixture. It's just, there's so many different moving parts and pieces. And then you drill down to a piece of furniture and I mean, like you said, there's 30 different decisions to make with a chair sometimes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
Yeah, you're
very
right.
key.
Yeah, the pneumatic, the height adjustability, the casters, the arm caps, the fabrics, back to that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a lot in our industry, and just in, like you said, it's a single chair, let alone the flooring side.
Uh-huh.
Kind of what you do, and that's the joy of it. I certainly get, because a lot of times designers have focuses with the customers, and then they're helping coming up with an idea, and then they look to us to help kind of implement that with the hard products, the finite
Mhm.
materials to kind of make that work.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I know as I was first getting in the industry, I know the flooring business because I had been in the flooring business for 7 years or so before I really got into the A&D world.
Mhm.
But as I got into the A&D world and I started talking to furniture reps, it took me a while to wrap my head around, okay, who's the manufacturer, who's the dealer, what's the difference, how does all that work? And so can you kind of coach me up a little bit on maybe as an interior designer when they're, when they're deciding that, okay, I need to pick out furniture for this project that I'm working on.
Mhm.
Where should they start in terms of talking with manufacturers? Should they talk with dealers? Like what would be your advice for where to start and things like that?
That's a very well put. It can be very convoluted, in this whole thing, because interior design oftentimes work with architect firms. They're through architect firms. Sometimes they're on their own as well as interior design firms. Architectural products, certainly like demountable walls, and then lab furniture, and then just workstations and seating, all have almost different avenues to
Okay.
access for them. And I think it's best, we work best with an A&D firm when they have these conversations with their clients. It's we can bring them the knowledge to the A&D firm of, especially, I mean, post-COVID, I mean, there's so much talk about the office buildings are going away. People are being forced to come into work every day. And so there's a lot of that out there that these clients are relying on the A&D to kind of help them move forward. And, what a furniture dealer can do when an interior designer calls us is help provide some of that background, that study. And then, here's what we found work locally, but also nationally. This is what we're finding giant corporations are doing, super small companies, doctors' offices, hospitality. There's lots of knowledge out there that we can at least help them as they're talking to their clients to kind of create the client's vision, make it happen.
Mhm.
And right now, I was just in a course in Atlanta the other day about, everyone did talk about, oh, the office is dead. And now companies are like, well, the productivity we had previous to COVID, we're not getting right now. And
Mm.
so do we just make everybody come back? And so some companies have tried that, and it's made people's work balance life. I mean, for 3 years, they may have been very successful in what they're doing in their home. And now they're being told they've got to go, another 45-minute commute every day. And so then their mental stability starts to get a little changed, and they might look for other jobs. What Because of all that, we're finding that having a company say, hey, look, 2 to 3 days, you got to be in the office. That sounds good, but what are they doing to make it work? And just saying you have to be here 2 to 3 days. Well, what are they doing? What are they doing there? Now they're starting to look at and say, well, these meetings are very important. We need the human connectivity. We need the serendipitous conversations together. So Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, we need this team in. And since that team's here, maybe we can have another meeting later that day. So they're being more strategic about how to utilize bringing people back into the office to gauge and measure that productivity and how it helps the company kind of move forward.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like now more than ever, employees and people on the team, if they're making the trip to be in the office, they want to be in the office for a reason.
yes.
And and people have different approaches. I mean, I talk to very productive people that would prefer to work from home as much as they can. And I talk to very productive people that would prefer to be in an office as much as they can, and
Yeah,
I think a lot of it just depends on kind of how you're wired and things like
that's
that.
absolutely. It's not as generational as they originally thought. They thought, oh, the boomers and then the Gen Xers, which I fall under, they want to be in the office, and then the young ones don't. And that's not true. They're finding
Yeah.
that there's, our people that crave that social connectivity. Yeah, it's hard if you're an accountant and all you do is sit and you're most effective in front of with no interruptions. It's a disservice to bring them in and have them with you in an open office plan. That's not going to be successful for them. At the same time, a sales rep that needs that engagement, that type A, to have them sit at home, they're not getting I guess the energy, from other people, or that competitiveness that they're with their other sales team, kind of going out. So it's
Yeah, and there's that mentorship aspect of it too.
correct.
The last episode that I recorded, it just released. It was with Ryan Meisner from
Yes,
Samford, and
yes,
he was talking about a lot of really cool stuff that they're doing with the Samford program to equip new designers and architects, but also just the importance of making sure that they, after they graduate, that they plug in with a place where they're going to be mentored, and I think
yeah,
that, I know that there are really good companies that are 100% remote. I don't know of any in our space necessarily, but I know some in other spaces that are 100% remote and they do mentorship really well and things like that. But
yeah,
you have to be really intentional about it. I mean,
correct.
early in my career, I learned a ton just by listening to a more experienced rep have a conversation with a customer.
Yes,
And it's like,
yes.
okay, well, that's how you answer that question. And it's because we were in an office together. And so I think that's the challenge with a lot of the work from home stuff is figuring out, okay, how do you keep that happening? With people that may be working in different states, from their guest bedroom, like what I'm doing today. So
Yeah, right. Yeah. My living room. And to your point, well, I work in an open office, and one of my positions is I really just help day to day people have, a little not just issues, but looking for advice, looking to try to help, move things forward. And me doing this, I would have so many more interruptions. And almost when I tell them, hey, I need to do this uninterrupted, that's when they're like, all right, I really need to talk to you
yeah,
about this.
it reminded them that they had
Yeah,
that question.
exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's valid. Hey, my client is asking me this. I'd like to get them that information, as
Yeah.
quickly as possible. So yes, I mean, you're right. Doing this where we're both in our best place for our podcast right now.
Yeah.
And there's some companies that are, no, you can't do that,
Yep.
and
Oh yeah.
we're also having uh, some talks with companies about, all right, so we're game. We understand not everybody's going to be in all the time. So we want to create space with products that allow acoustic privacy. So there's acoustic booths that are real big. And,
Yeah.
we're having a lot of success right now with kind of open areas, and even in the healthcare areas specifically, where you need to have some HIPAA, ideas. But teledoc, is huge with insurance that people have, from their employers. And a lot of them notice that they all go outside to have that conversation or go to their cars. And just
Wow.
because there's not, or, they don't want to take up a full conference room to have a conversation with the doctor, about how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Certainly the ones that involve, mental health, because it's
Hmm.
not just I've got the flu or I've got, COVID, or, help recognize, diagnose something. And, so these are part of becoming a space for people to separate, have that acoustic privacy without really interfering with their day. And then,
That's so fascinating. I never would have thought about the need for, I could imagine the need for, an employee needing to make a private phone call, but to think about a doctor in a hospital needing to get to a place where they can answer questions and speak freely and things like that. I
yeah,
just
yeah,
never even thought about that, Tim.
yeah, even with, yeah, I mean, those one-on-one, conversations with the patients when they're not in the patient room, when they come out, or updates on a surgery or something for a loved one in those weight rooms.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think that's what we found. A lot of the corporations didn't have spaces for an employee to call teledoc to talk about their kids sickness or something,
Yeah.
like I said,
And,
those private conversations.
and with the booths, does that, and this may be a dumb question because I'm just not a furniture guy, but I would think that that would create a lot of flexibility within the space, that say they have, a certain amount of need for things like that in 2024, but maybe in
Mhm.
2034 that's either increased or decreased or something like that. I would think that that would be a lot easier, um, that it would be a lot easier to maintain flexibility with the space when you use something like that versus an actual built wall. Is that like, are people seeing that
That's
as a benefit or?
That's spot on. I mean, that's literally nailed it. A lot of the sizes of these booths are fit within code where they don't have to have HVAC or sprinklers put in, but there are also ones that are bigger that can be, or it could be even added on to. There's always ones that are ADA compliant, so you can get a full span of a wheelchair going in and turning around. So yeah, a lot of thought has been put into creating that space within the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
why.
One of the first times that I really saw a lot of those was I got to tour the Chick-fil-A headquarters in Atlanta, which is a
Oh,
cool thing
cool.
if you ever wanted to do
I've
that. But
not, but I've heard a lot about it. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a neat company. And but they had those things everywhere, man. When you do the tour, you get to kind of walk around the office and things like that.
Yeah.
And they had a ton of those, and they were being, I mean, half of them were full and being used just during our tour, and I don't
Yeah.
know if it was people that worked remotely and maybe they came in and had a booth the days that they were in the office, or if it was more of they're always in the office, but they just needed a quiet place. Like, I don't know,
Sure.
but
Sure.
they had a ton of them there. And I just thought, man, that would be really useful. So,
Yeah. And, I think we looked at a lot of these giant corporations, that sometimes they're at the forefront of this because they want to identify these things as quick as possible. And there's so many, like Hayworth is our main manufacturer. They do so much research on the way people work, the work styles and, what fits. And then you've got the architect firms that are, working with that. Solomon Coyle, there's all kinds of companies, even Forbes, does a lot of studies. So they take that and they try to implement it. And some of these companies are big enough that they can actually test something just to kind of
yeah,
see how this works. One thing we found when you do a kind of like like a hotel lobby, it's got several different little setups, as
mhm,
far as a little privacy area for someone to do touchdown, a little bit more loungy kind of thing. Putting those in doesn't necessarily create a space that people are going to use. They found that if someone goes with their laptop and they're doing it and their boss walks by, it's like, what are you doing out here? That little moment makes someone feel shameful. So they go back
yeah,
and then other people see that. So then management leadership is like, why aren't we using this stuff? We just spent a bunch of money. And it's okay, cool. Well, now we need to get the leadership to be seen out here to where people feel, again, the work being done is still it's goal oriented. It's being done no matter where they're there or they're at their little cubicle kind of thing.
I could also see. I mean, it's certainly relevant in the new construction space, but I could see it being really relevant as well in the renovation space. Maybe
Yes,
the building was built 15, 20 years ago when every office was open office, and there were, and
yes, big time.
I hear mixed thoughts on it. Some people love it, some people really don't like it at all. But it feels like the industry is moving to a little bit more balanced position of saying, hey, open office has some merit, but we also need some quiet places. And for that end user that they've already built and designed their space, a booth like that is probably a great way to start integrating that without having to build walls and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, correct, correct.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes people have spaces for private offices. They've actually pulled out the office itself and put in a couple of couches and,
Mhm.
made it a little bit more, I guess, one, pleasing to the eye, a little more residential feel to it, but not necessarily. This is, one person's office and, it's something that can be used a little bit more because of that need for privacy.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all need privacy at some point,
Oh yeah.
throughout the day. And
Yeah.
even if it's just for your own sanity, that's and I think, along that vein of thought is it's a culture is important with the firm where it is. If it are people that like, no, you get your butt in the seat at 8 a.m. until 5, that's hard to deal with when your mindset is, I think, like every day I get up and I go for a walk. I do about a 1.2 mile walk just over by Red Cat, walking down there. And that's just my mental stressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had other places where I've worked where you just don't do that. Hey, where are you going? Why are you doing that? And, you stop doing that. And then part of you starts to feel that. And,
Yeah.
where I work, Innerspaice, they've been very open to what works best for the employees that can work best for us.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, I look forward to that every day because I don't take my phone. I just walk and I just, kind of think through some things.
I love that, man. You got to get away from that phone every now and then,
Oh man,
I mean,
yes.
it's
Yeah.
hard, but I've been thinking the same thing of like, okay, how do I create just a little bit more space, like some different pockets throughout the day that I'm not available, and that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
helpful. And I'm the same. I almost every day after lunch, if I have the time, I'm doing a quick walk down Second Avenue South or First Avenue South.
yep. Yep.
Just right. I know I've seen you on your walk before too. So
Yeah,
it's
that's right. That's right.
like if I
Yeah.
can take 20 minutes and that helps me finish the day well, then I think that's a good investment.
Yeah, there are a couple of architect firms kind of in the peripheral
Oh yeah.
between us, and I'll see a couple from CCR, kind
Uh-huh.
of doing the same thing. And
Yeah.
it's never oh hey, let's stop and chat. It's just hey, recognize, just
Yeah,
kind of
for
doing our
sure.
own things, man. That's
Yeah.
that's very enjoyable with it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Agreed. Well, we talked about the booths. What are some other things that you're seeing as far as best practices for that company that's thinking through, okay, how do we how do we optimize our space, knowing that some people want to work from home, some people don't, but wanting to create a positive culture and things like that. Like what are some of the other things that you've seen people do that are working well?
Several companies right now are, you know, if they've had just small company has 10 cubicles, a cubicle meaning a desk with walls around it. Walls are powered kind of thing. They're like, okay, these people are hybrid, that's meaning they work from home and office. How do we make this work? Well, all right, let's reduce that to 4 cubes. And maybe that's reconfiguring what they have, or they're just pushing that aside, looking for, some of the newer products with different technologies in them, sit to stand height, various items, less storage space, and then creating a plan to know that this person is going to be here this day, identify this time, this person identify that time. And then, maybe even leave 1 or 2 spaces open for first come, first serve. And so that seems to be something that's helpful. Another thing is conference spaces. When you've got a room with 20 seats, I mean, these beautiful big tables and all these chairs, and they notice throughout the course of months, 7 people is max who they have in there.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a team meeting once in a while and everyone fills in, but they're like, all right, if we divide that space up and have a 10-person conference room, and then outside that conference room, we've got little not necessarily privacy booths, but it's a chair with a desk and it's got some big kind of PET material, which is that acoustic stuff that you see
Okay.
around it, so they can leave a meeting, they can kind of go knock some stuff out and definitely not necessarily taking up a full space, before they go out on a sales call or, whatever the work is,
Mm-hmm.
and then also truly identifying that these accountants, these HR people, you've got the health and wellness people in some of these firms. Let's go ahead and give them exactly what they want, that space. Because sometimes people are like, well, if they get high walls, I want high walls. And they're like, okay, the work that you do, you're not here enough for that. They are here. So it's creating boundaries
Yeah.
within there. And yeah, I think it's an evaluation. I think that's where A&D firms are so good at looking at existing spaces, because a lot of people have 10-year leases, like you were talking about. It's what's good right now, what may not be good, 15 years from now. That open plan was the coolest thing at the time, but was it effective for us? Well, no. Now that everyone's coming back, let's try to make it a little more purposeful,
Yeah.
and that's where those conversations kind of come in. And
Yeah, and thinking about multiple uses for a space. You were talking about that big conference room that doesn't get used very often and maybe
yeah,
paring that down. I've seen, Turner Batson's office is a good example. They have beautiful conference spaces and things like that, but they
Yeah.
also have that room that it almost feels like a living room, but with a screen. So like I did a CEU there, and it was almost like everybody was sitting in the living room. It felt more casual. It felt more residential almost,
Yes.
but still could fit a lot of people in there, and so I could see a lot of offices doing similar things of thinking, okay, well, if the do we need the big, massive round table for the company-wide meetings, or do we have another space that we can fit everybody in, but also, somebody can go out there with their earbuds in and get some work done away from their desk or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, correct. Yeah. And then to continue on to that point, those conference rooms, like we have a big 12-person conference room that we have at least two meetings every week where all those seats fill up.
Yeah, yeah,
And in the past, we would jam everybody in when we're having a company-wide meeting, and it was very tight thing. So we have a great big open area when you first walk in. It's really cool open area.
hmm,
And now we've went ahead and put up a TV screen and created a space that we could all be down there, much more spread out for those big meetings.
yeah.
Instead of just trying to make that work. And we're in the middle of a back room for us, a space that we've not really utilized very well of working out, trying to create a learning space for us. That's just going to
Nice.
be a little bit more spread out. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And
Yeah,
it's
tell me more about that. What's that space going to be like?
it was originally a flower shop back in I think the 70s and 80s. And where we are, the Day building, it's so cool. So much history there. It's almost 100 years old. And one of the claims to fame is the Birmingham Batman, which was this guy that just helped out the community in the 70s and 80s, dressed up and had a really cool car and would drive around with tanks of gas and help people jump their cars or take elderly appointments. And he kept his car in this building back, and then he actually died back there while he was working on the car one time.
Wow.
And so to me, that's something we try to do at Innerspace that I brought, that we want to do good charity works in our community to continue on what the Birmingham Batman had done. And but also in that back space was a flower shop. And right now it's just got a bunch of stuff in it. I hate looking at it, but we've tried to make it purposeful. And so part of it's going to be a living room, kind of like what you were talking about, as far as beautiful couch, some great Hayworth, some of the higher end products, as well as a TV monitor, and just kind of beautiful. At the same time, that part of it, we can move in some elegant tables and have little sit down dinners or things like that. And then the other portion of it, we're going to have training tables that are movable around, electric, where we can have heck, if you wanted to do a CEU, the space would be available for you. Ideally, when there's small charities want to have their board meetings, we want it to be open to them. Trying to make it a little bit more community based and purposeful. So yeah, definitely really looking forward to that. And got to talk about relationships. I've brought in several of the people that have helped me at the time to help do this. Mickey Davis being one of them. And he's going to try some new products. He's going to use this. He's bringing in a couple new reps to work on the flooring specifically with some things, and doing a training for them. And as competitive as our industry is, I mean, look, you're trying to sell products. Other people are trying to sell other products that same as yours. You're hoping they buy yours.
Hmm.
And Mickey Davis, the company that he works for, Carpet Specialties, they are bringing in every kind of installer from all his competitors, so they can see this new process by this company, just because it's going to be out there, and that's just the kind of guy he is. He's
Yeah,
not out to scorn people or fight them. There's enough room for all of us, I think, and so um,
I love that,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, I've found that investments in the community of design have always been good investments. When it's deepening those relationships, creating more relationships, like it is a relationship oriented business that we're in. And I think that's my favorite thing about it, is just the
yes,
community aspect, I mean, I like flooring. I've kind of become passionate about flooring because I've been in it so long.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that keeps me in the industry is not the product, it's the people, you know?
I think that's great. And to your point, when you fall in love with your products, or at least you're passionate about it, you believe in them, it's easier to have those conversations,
Yes.
with the people, because the value may not always be a fit, but you're able to have those conversations with them. And
Right.
then they also look at you as someone important for them, a
Hmm.
consultant. And I think that's the ideal thing. I think that when a designer calls me about a project, specifically about furniture, when they call me about a career advice, I mean, that stuff, that's where I feel my value.
Yeah.
It makes me feel great. It makes me feel great
Hmm.
that they can look at me for that. Just because I've seen how, when I've come to those kind of points in my life, the people that have helped me, and
Oh, yeah.
kind of so that's that is a good feeling. And some of the designers right now, they're looking where they are and kind of where they want to go. And I always, right now, say, look, just get as good as you can at what you're doing. I think that sometimes in our lives, the job that you have can get a little mundane. That's, when you're just kind of going through the motions. And when a interior designer is doing 3 or 4 things every day, space planning, something else, and two of those, it's just not really their thing. And,
Mhm.
and sometimes you have a tendency to focus on that negative. Oh, I can't believe I have to do this. Can't believe I have to do this. I can't believe I have to call on this client now. And, but, you know, what I've always recommended to them is just get so great at it and
Yeah.
then go to your employer. And it's a tough conversation. It's tough to ask for money. It's
Uh-huh.
tough to say, I would like to add more to what I'm doing, or I would like to remove some of what I'm doing. It's
Hmm.
tough, but if you're at the point where you're as good as you can get, it's easier to have those conversations, because an
Yeah.
employer, most of the time, no one's ever going to say, we will never pay you a dime more. But if you go to them and say, look, I'm doing this, I want to add this to it, and I'd like more, income to represent that. You may get originally not there. Well, then you need to consider yourself, where you're at in your life,
Yeah.
and what your direction is. Maybe it is there. Maybe they give you a clear cut answer. And, then, also I think if yeah, you get those hard no's, where you stand.
Yeah.
And I think so, it's, again, it is all about money. Not all about money, but it is a big part of it. Make
It's a
it an income.
factor. Yeah.
Correct, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that when it comes Sunday at 2 o'clock and you start getting a feeling in your stomach that you have to go to work on Monday, and it's kind of stealing all that happiness. And I think they call it the Sunday feelies. I've
Uh-huh.
had that before. I've had it before in my life. That's tough. That's
Oh,
not the
yeah.
best thing to have in your life. And it's that, with the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Yeah.
That's where something has to, change.
Yeah. And
Kind of
that has to be factored into even with the financial conversation,
correct,
like, okay,
correct.
is it worth making X amount more money, but being in a position that, maybe you're in a firm with a really positive culture that you love, but the grass looks greener on the other side with an opportunity to
Yes,
increase your income a little bit. I think a good question to ask is, well, what's that sleep at night factor going to be like, or
correct,
am I
correct.
going to have a case of the Smondays every Sunday, worried about
Yeah,
Monday,
yeah.
those feelings, and that's one of those things. It's really hard to put a number to that, but man, if you've ever experienced it, it's a real thing, even though it's hard to measure. So,
Yeah, no, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like I said, there's points in my life where I've been that way, and I
uh-huh,
think
me too.
it ideally helped me move on, to
Yep.
something a little bit more, trying to find what worked for me. And yeah, I even tell the people that are in my company, there are going to be days that you do hate your job. I mean, that's just normal. No matter
Yeah.
what you do in life, there's days where everything just kind of goes wrong. Everything, doesn't go the way you think. You mess up unbelievably, and you
Yep.
just wish you could shrink, but you can't. You got to keep going at it. And I mean, that's just life, because there's also days that are unbelievably awesome. And then
Uh-huh.
there's days it's just your normal days.
Yep.
to kind of work on, and so, one of the things, because I'm old, I'm 51, through this all, that my being able to do as much as I can with my kids is
Hmm.
been kind of a standing. And I, again, I've been in places where it's 8 to 5, kind of thing. And, like Innerspaice, just when I said, hey, look, I want to take my kids to school every morning, just because that's 15 minutes of my life with them. That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
that I want to experience. And I said, I got sometimes a 40-minute commute coming in from where I live in Hoover, and I'm not going to be there at 8, maybe 8:15, 8:20. And Harvey's just like, so, just do your job, man. Yeah, just don't come in at 10 and not have done
Uh-huh.
anything, And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we have several designers that go pick their kids up from school and then work from home the rest of the afternoon. It's to your what we've kind of been talking about, what works for those individuals and what works for the office,
Yeah.
is one of them. And that's and I always feel for people that do have those Mondays,
Yeah.
just because sometimes you can feel stuck. Well, I'm bringing in income, I'm surviving, and what else is out there is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, man. Yeah, I've been there too, and it's yeah, it's worth it to try. And one thing I'll say is sometimes and I've actually done this in my role at South Cypress a time or two, is just had a conversation with Drew like, hey, this is not working for me now. Here's what I would like for it to look like. And sometimes it's not even jumping companies to get your job
Correct.
to a position where it makes sense for your life. Sometimes it's just a lateral move. It's just making a role change, or, like you were saying earlier, taking on more responsibility, taking on less responsibility. And, sometimes that can be at the same company, if you're just willing to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I feel most leadership that I've ever seen or even dealt with or having conversations with, they're open to that. They want their
Hmm.
employees to be as
Yeah.
successful as possible.
Yeah. It's like if you're
Uh,
doing a good job, they don't want you going anywhere.
correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you, some of what you were saying earlier about just getting really good at your job reminded me of a book by Cal Newport called So Good They Can't Ignore You.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have
That
you
was
read? I
awesome.
know you're a
Yeah.
voracious
Yes.
reader. That's okay. Yeah, I love that. I read that one pretty early in my career, and it was pivotal. I would highly recommend that book to anybody that's checking it out. But
Without a doubt, that's that thing where your value is, to that point where you also feel confident at what you don't, what you're doing and who you are within that. And yeah, Cal's got a lot of good books.
oh
Some of them are almost too deep for me. In fact, Deep Work, I think, is one of
yeah,
his that,
yeah,
that
yeah,
he kind of talks about that. And, I think to your point, I am a big reader because I'm trying to get better. Even today, trying to get better, trying to have better conversations with people, trying to see more mentors. There's a guy here in town, Mark Corsini, who's been a sales coach and
okay,
for quite a bit. And he came up with something for me one time. It's when I'm out there in the sales world, an hour of power, where you just 1 hour a day, you just kill it. You make new phone calls, you make things like this, and at the time I was getting frustrated. I was doing well, but I wasn't getting to the next step. And just like that one little, man, that one little thing just, helped change that trajectory just enough.
yeah.
And, so yeah, I think, and again, it's Mickey Davis. I brought him up in our industry, and I think hopefully I'm shaming you into actually putting him on your podcast, just
Yeah,
because
I need to meet that guy. Yeah.
he is a wealth, just a wealth of he's one of those people you walk away from feeling better, about what you do, even in our industry.
Yeah,
And,
that's cool.
and
Yeah.
so, yeah.
He's somebody on my list that I want to take to lunch and get to know more.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
we should, I'm ashamed that I don't already know him well because we're in
There
such a
you go.
similar space. So I'll commit to everybody that's listening. I'm going to reach out to Mickey Davis and, try to get to know that guy. So,
Yeah. There you go.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, personally right now, I've been working on, there's a concept called the anchor, and it's, what we're not doing in this podcast. We're just going from one thing to another. But sometimes when someone has a conversation with me, I end up letting them kind of start veering off the course of what their initial point was. And then I find myself doing it too, and just kind of growing within that part of it. And then, dude, if I could recommend a book, Whack on the Side of the Head,
Okay.
by a guy named Roger Von Ock. He has this thing that just it gets the creativity going. I've given it to several designers as well, but it's like you'll take an apple and a table and you'll write 10 things that are the same about it, and then the 10 things that are different. And so,
Hmm.
apple has four little bumps on the bottom, a leg has four legs.
Yeah.
They're both wood, at least come from wood, kind of things. And it's yeah, a lot of corporations use this guy for just trying to expand kind of that creativity within you, get those neurons from over here to here to kind of trigger and
Yeah.
spark and unite, kind of thing. Like brushing your teeth with your left hand or your non-dominant hand for 21 days. That stimulates parts of your
Wow.
brain that hadn't,
That's
and
interesting.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to try that. It's
And,
yeah. I bet that is a super weird feeling, brushing your teeth with your left hand.
yeah. I mean, some people are forced into it with injuries, on their
Right.
dominant hand and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that's
And,
interesting. I'll have to
so
check that. Well, while we're recommending books, I'll show you
yeah,
one that our leadership team is reading this book this year. See if you can see it. Oh,
little on the
did I lo-
blurry.
did I lose you?
No, do you see me?
I can see you now. Okay. I
Okay,
don't know if
cool,
this is
cool.
gonna work
It's
with.
the
There
four
we go. Four disciplines of
disciplines of
execution.
excellence. I'm gonna write that down
Um,
here.
and it's by uh Chris McChesney, Sean Covey, which is Stephen Covey's
Oh
son,
wow.
and Jim Hewling. But it's an interesting book. It just kind of um it's a decision making and a goal setting process that it outlines that you could just adopt as a company and use that to set your yearly and quarterly goals and things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I also think it's just helpful to think about execution. A lot of times we'll obsess about the strategy and obsess about the plan. I'm of the opinion that usually the devil's in the execution, and you can have the best plan in the world, but if you're not consistent and disciplined about making that strategy happen, then a lot of times it just doesn't work out. And so this book is kind of about that and gives a good framework for how to do it. So I'm
I
about
mean,
halfway through it, but I've enjoyed it so far. So
as much as I'm in a sales director role, everything you said, is on my mind, I'm going through all the things that we've come up with at the leadership level we want to implement, and really how two of those out of the six, this has certain things die in the vine. And sometimes that's purposeful. Sometimes there's a reason,
right.
hey, this is not the answer, but it's not as specific that you're talking about,
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, that's actually would hit home, a whole lot right now,
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, and I mean I've been in the same boat, and I would say I think most teams are like that. You have
Yeah.
myself included, and
Mhm.
you have a lot of good ideas and things that probably are good ideas, but then kind of missing on, okay, a year from now are we still talking about this,
Yeah.
and so anyway, it's a good book, but I wanted to. This is going to be kind of a not so graceful transition, so
Sure.
forgive me for that. But I wanted to. I also wanted to ask you about ergonomics, and I
Yeah.
know that that's something that you know a lot about. It's something that I know nothing about. But I'm guessing that there are probably some things that people who are listening would enjoy hearing from you about when it comes to that. And so, just any thoughts that you have about that and things that maybe interior designers aren't often aware of that maybe they would like to be aware of or something like that. I just kind of wanted to give you an open opportunity to share some about that because I know that that's kind of an area of expertise that you have.
Yeah, ergonomics. It's and to your point, a lot of people say they don't know anything about it like you, but you do because you know what doesn't work. When you
Mm,
get a crick in your neck, you're not relating that to that's an ergonomic where I'm positioned or anything, but you feel it, you see it, you
yeah.
get that fatigue. I think one of the most important parts is the amount of eye strain that is just
Mm,
taken over because if we're not on the computer, we're on our phones, we're looking at smaller writing, we're looking at backlit items, and that's just it's not natural for the eyes
okay.
to process. And so, I mean, you've probably done it where you've been in front of the computer all day and then you're like, oh my gosh,
Oh
Your
yeah.
eyeballs are literally not moving around, like they normally are. When you're thinking, what do? Your eyes move. You look up, you look around. We have
Yeah.
a process with our sight that happens. So, the position of a monitor, ideally, the top of the monitor is right at your eye level,
Okay.
where you're sitting. So yeah, if you're looking up like that, that's putting strain on your eyes, but it's also putting strain on your neck.
Okay.
And then vice versa, leaning forward. Not a fan of this word, but they call it turtling when you're leaning over.
Oh yeah.
The human head weighs around 8 pounds, and when you're up like this, when you're upright, which I'm not even at this moment. When you're upright, it's just got all that spine to balance it. But the moment you lean over, well, now all that neck straight is picking that up. And so it's just kind of making sure, and a chair can help with that. Certainly if you use the back of it, that's where all the studies go into, is in the back, how it aligns with your spine. But yeah, if you're leaning forward, there's, you've got a nice cushioned seat, a lot of times within that. And then
With
I
the
use, yeah.
one question about the whole eye strain thing, like what are some ways that that people can reduce eye strain, that and maybe they could even do it with the equipment that they already have, or maybe there's a product in the furniture industry that can help with that. But what are some ways to avoid some of that?
The First of all, the Blu-ray, there's just the amount of non-natural light that you're getting hit. So,
Hmm.
you can get a film for your monitor. Blu-ray glasses, I think, is probably a
Okay.
little bit more popular. They just have a little bit of an off tint color to them.
Hmm.
That's, it's amazing. I don't use them. Every optometrist says people need to use Blu-ray, like, just because our eyes are not made to handle that at that extreme rate that we do. Yeah, the lighting that we're in, I think one of the biggest things is getting away from that,
Hmm.
getting away from the screen, even in little increments helps.
Yeah.
Just kind of, it's kind of like, holding a water bottle. It's easy to hold a water bottle for 20 seconds, but after 4 minutes, it's getting pretty
Yeah.
sore. So you
Yeah.
let it go for a little bit, and then you can hold it up again.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I see that with the visual
Uh-huh.
in that. And then sit to stand helps with that too.
Yeah.
The eye strain, just because you reposition yourself, reposition your body. Um, so many companies spend so much money on sit to stand because it's higher than a fixed, the price is, and maybe 5% of the people actually use it.
Really.
Yeah, they want to be able to offer it. It also helps with carpal tunnel. A person's able to maneuver their the work surface to where it's not putting that strain on those tendons in the arms. And
Interesting.
so, yeah, but like, I mean, some companies even set up a timer on people's computers to automatically go off every hour to remind them to stand up.
Yeah.
And there's the little contraption to go up and down. There's settings like in like higher end cars. You can hit one and it'll automatically take you up to that. Go down to
Yeah.
two. For your sit. So it's always exactly where you need it.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, we're made to stand and we're made to lay
Mhm.
down. That's just how we were created. And so sitting
Yeah.
automatically starts to have some negative effects on
Yeah.
our bodies, from our circulation, even in the chest. When we're hunched over, like I am now, we're
Uh-huh.
not breathing as much as when we're having, sit back. And again,
Yeah.
that's why an ergonomic chair, a lot of those qualities are in the back. It'll let you
Yeah.
expand the chest
Yeah.
to more oxygen. It makes you more some better. I think Jocko Willnick, he's an author, but he's also
Hmm.
a podcaster.
Yeah.
He's always big about deep breathing. Just throughout the
Hmm.
day, just get in 10 big, just fill it up, and you feel it. You feel that oxygen that you're not getting.
Yep.
And so that's I think I've mentioned thrown out to you before the word Kaizen
Uh-huh.
about
Yep.
kind of eliminating that waste. And that's, yeah, for me, standing up, that kills the amount of waste where I sit here and I start to slouch over. And I mean,
Yep.
goof off sometimes,
Yeah.
I'll
Uh-huh.
pick up the
Pick up
phone
my
and,
phone and now
yeah,
now I'm
exactly.
distracted. Yeah.
Unproductive. But when I find I move myself up, I'm eliminating that need for that fatigue, in myself. So I'm able
Yeah.
to kind of move it up a little bit
Yeah. Well, yeah,
within
as
me.
we do this, I'm seated right now, but I'm using my human scale sit stand
Yeah.
desk that you helped me get. So thank you for that. And I use it all the time, man. I've got it in my home office because this is where I do a lot of Zoom calls and meetings and things
Yeah.
that I'm kind of wanting to nod off, if I'm being honest, sometimes.
Sure, sure.
Being able to stand up, I feel like I'm so much more present and engaged um, with with a lot of that stuff, which I'm sitting right now. But I mean, this thing is standing up a
Yeah.
lot of the time. Or say it's the end of the day and I've gotten home, but I've got a few more things that I need to knock out. Man, I'll
Yeah.
just stand that thing up, and it's so much easier to move through it quickly and stay engaged and stay present. So I think there's mental benefits to standing up in addition to just the physical benefits,
I was gonna say that's ergonomics as well. Just having that
Yeah.
ability, to be as just like you said. There's some studies about how seated meetings take longer than standing meetings.
Mm,
So some companies we do standing height, cafe height tables,
yeah.
and if you ever have the chance to see the two, there is a different level of intensity about those. They're a little bit more focused, a little bit more shorter,
Yeah.
overall, as opposed to just sitting down, being a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
And like I said, you say you don't know anything about ergonomics. You know a lot, because you see, and that's fatigue set in because of what you were doing. Sitting there, your brain wasn't able to get the stimulation. Part of it's oxygen, could be circulation in your legs, and then getting that up just kind of wakes your body up. And
Yeah.
so that's it's oftentimes budgets will be established with an architectural firm, and then sometimes they look to us, say, hey, look, we're looking at these size workstations. We want to have a budget, fits this. What do you have? And originally things will come out with, man, we want to have ergonomic chairs, super high end. We want to have sit stand, we want to have everything that's acoustics, white noise coming through just to kind of help for focus, and then budgets, real life kicks in. And so a lot
Yeah.
of times those things get pushed out. And I know that sometimes A&D firms push back on the client saying, if we're going to reduce, this is not the area to do that,
Yeah.
for the people that work, every single day for you, to be as
Mhm.
productive as possible.
What are as a an interior designer looking at a chair or a desk or a piece of furniture that somebody's going to use, and
Mhm.
they're asking the question, is this ergonomic, or how ergonomic is this? What are some ways that they can get answers to those questions, or what are some things that they should be looking for if they're trying to prioritize that?
Gotcha. There's a ton of, the white paper research, out there, and most certainly Hayworth, but some of the other competitors, every product that they produce has had so much research behind it. And
Okay.
that's test cases. It's, literally analyzing how the bodies sit, how the spine works on it. And there's enough research out there, I think, that they're able to acquire, to get them at least up to speed. Like if I told you right now, hey, you've got 30 minutes to give me a presentation on ergonomic seating, you'd be able to find enough key points out there, about why
Okay.
and everything about the spine. That's huge. Your spine's different than mine.
Hmm.
And a lot of chairs out there today are made to work with each person's spine. It's almost like to work with it. And I think that, what I always say, our office, we have a resource library with 300 manufacturers.
Okay.
And
Wow.
our designers go back there sometimes, and when we get a request from a firm, client, and that can be intimidating. You look
Mhm.
at 300,
Oh
and
yeah.
some of them are all saying ergonomic, and then some of them, hey, this is an ergonomic chair, and it could be a good chair, but it doesn't have that research behind it. Then there's other
Okay.
ones that have it, and that's part of that relationship with the reps. Like if you came in saying, hey, this is the best hardwood product right here. See you later. That
Yeah.
doesn't resonate as much
Yeah.
as
Because I
someone
said
else.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 We're not there yet, are we? And
Yeah.
yeah. But you're like,
Doesn't
this
work so
is,
well.
no. But when you're like, hey, look, the research behind this, the way that it's been created, the way that it's sourced and all this, this is something that could align with your client right now,
Uh-huh.
and that's, part of that relationship. Yeah. We get clients all the time saying we need a good, we need a better, and we need a best of
Mm,
these, things.
yeah.
So it's on us a lot of times. A lot of times the designers know, they know exactly what they want, and we help them to get the budgets. Other times,
Hmm.
hey, what's the latest and greatest? What is that? And
Yeah.
so we provide, hey, this is good. This is the lowest price point, that you're looking within. And here's the research based on that, moving to the second and to the third,
Hmm.
to where they feel comfortable enough. Because uh, if a client has a bad experience, they're not going to be like, oh, that was Tim at Innerspace that sold them the wrong chair. They're going to look at that architect firm and say, you guys,
Hmm.
you didn't help me out. So it's pretty important,
Hmm. Yeah.
for us to give as much information as possible to the architects and the
Yeah.
interior designers specifically that work on these projects.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. Yeah. It kind of, this is a silly example, but growing up, or I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, people probably thought if it was a diet soda, that it was probably a healthy soda.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think what I've seen in our space is a lot of times with sustainability, you'll see, okay, this is a green product or this is a sustainable product. And sometimes just because it says that on the label doesn't mean it could be a very sustainable and a very green product that makes a ton of sense from an environmental perspective, or it could just kind of be a greenwashed product. And what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like ergonomics is similar. Somebody can say, well, yeah, sure, this chair is ergonomic. It says ergonomic on the label,
Yeah.
but that may not necessarily be the case,
Yeah,
depending on
yeah,
where it came
correct.
from.
Yeah, exactly. And, I will say most of the manufacturers that we deal with and even our competitors, they all have that level. I mean, it doesn't take
Right.
long for the
Okay.
ones, like you said, it's something says this is green. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean the production process is limiting CO2 emissions? Is it emitting, the water is able to be, put back into a water source to be drinkable?
Hmm.
Or, on the post side, is all the waste turned into energy? Or is it they buy credits from another company that's way more green than they are, and then that
Yep.
counts towards them? I mean, you're right.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
that's
we see that in our business because there's not a way that you can make a porcelain tile without cooking it to about 2000 degrees. And there's not a way you can do that without a lot of natural gas. So
sure,
a
yeah,
lot of those manufacturers, they're purchasing carbon offset credits and things like that and
yes,
getting to the same place, but just taking a different path to get there. So
yeah, correct.
yeah.
That's yeah, I know when LVT was kind of first coming out that
Hmm.
the main manufacturers, the big ones, had very clean vinyl product,
Right.
but some of these they were taking these old buildings overseas and stripping all the PVC off of the copper wire from these buildings built in the 50s and 60s. And man,
Yeah.
that PVC material had toxins in it,
Oh yeah.
and that it was impure, and then the product. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It's technically it's LVT, but what was in it was not near,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot in the flooring business that still kind of feels like a Wild West in some ways. Like
Sure.
there's
Yeah.
yeah, it's I could I could say a lot more about that,
Yeah,
but
no.
it's
Me too. Yeah,
you've been in
yeah.
that world too, so you
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, correct.
But
Yeah.
interesting. Well, what another question that I wanted to ask you, and then maybe we could start to wrap up here in a few minutes.
Sure.
But the what are just some common questions that you get from designers, maybe especially newer designers, just like some common questions, some common misconceptions, either about the furniture industry or about specific products or ergonomics, like just what are some of those that you might be able to answer so that people can kind of avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, there's several just kind of questions, and what I found is sometimes it's hard to get them to ask those questions for that
Yeah.
fear of this may be a dumb question. It's not a dumb
Yeah.
question. To say you don't know anything about ergonomics is not a dumb question, and especially when your focus is this, and this in the design firm, and then you're asked to do this. specific, something that's not been in your wheelhouse in a while.
Yeah.
And, what they'll usually say is like, look, when we're looking at an office plan, we've talked to the client, we know they've got three accountants, back of the house, receivables, and then we've got a warehouse operations, this, and this, all these parts. Where would we begin just trying to plan that out as far
Mm-hmm.
as, and sometimes we bring up where the printer is for the company, something as like that they're
Yeah.
thinking about. Most of the time, these designers have that stuff kind of in, but it's all right. So it's take that next step. The client wants A, B, and C. Hey, what products out there fit that?
Mm-hmm.
I know so and so has this product. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Within that. So we get a lot of questions. This is what they want. This is what we want. We've agreed on this. Let's make it fit in a budget. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it's that.
Yeah.
They're our big Hayward chair is the Fern chair. It's our most expensive chair. It's the best ergonomic chair, in my opinion, for sure. And they would love to have that, but they don't want to tee that up to their client, and then it's just not within their budget, and
Right.
then that's on them. So a lot of time it's that. It's what meets the budget. Kind of
Mm-hmm. That
what
makes
falls
sense.
into place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Everybody has a budget. It's just a matter of what it is. That's
correct. Yeah. And electrical,
Yep.
we get electrical questions all the time when
Oh, interesting.
panel systems, it used to be you had a big old honking computer, with a giant screen and then a CPU underneath and then a phone. And that's really all you had, and a light. Nowadays, the amount of technology that we have, so the amount of uh, receptacles, needed, and where they're going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
placed, where they make sense. When you have a height adjustable table, where does that make sense to have the power that runs through the chassis, into things. So a lot of those are important questions that we can answer, that again, this is what we want, and then we can help them kind of plug in those things. That's where a lot of times we're very valuable for them.
Yeah. And you're coming alongside them as a consultant and, it sounds like you're really adding a lot of value to that process. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, correct. Yeah,
yeah.
because those things, there's conversations about, do they channel the slab, and run
Mm-hmm.
power underneath? Are they going to drop power poles? Are they going to be close enough to the walls themselves? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that we understand about the products that, they understand the purpose of the products. So let's
Right.
just kind of make those things merge.
Yeah.
That work, because you don't want to go down something where they love this product, they specify, and a customer loves it, and then we get involved and like, hey, this isn't going to work. I mean, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of getting all that stuff up front.
Yeah. Yeah. Something
Mhm.
that I try to say pretty often is to customers is, hey, I don't expect you to be a flooring expert. You've got to think about furniture. You've got to think about lighting. You've got to think about layout. You've got to think about what are the client's needs, all that sort of thing. I don't expect you to know everything there is to know about hardwood flooring because you physically can't, and I'm hearing the same thing
Yeah,
from you about flooring of like, an interior designer at a design firm, they've got a lot of things that they're worried about. So why not bring in the people who their
correct.
whole job is furniture? Like they're
Yes.
thinking about furniture all the time. Um, and I think that can add a lot of value to the process for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Another thing where we can be a very big benefit is, I said there's 300 manufacturers. Well, 20 of those are textile manufacturers with hundreds of products. So, hey, here's the chair we want. We can provide the textiles with it. They go by grades, A, B, C, and the price matches each. And some of them are, coated materials, for stain and, crocking, different things that happen with it. And
mhm.
they got a lot going on. They don't just pick colors. They don't just
Right.
pick, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and we can help. Hey, here's our direction. And then we can help bring in ones that we say are graded in or already approved. It's amazing how many fabrics don't work on certain things, whether it be a panel fabric in a workstation or on a chair, just the way that it curves and it tightens in. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, sometimes they fall in love with a fabric that ends up, we can't put it on anything because the manufacturers say it's not going to work.
Interesting. Okay.
And then, yeah.
So from a process perspective, sometimes a designer is reaching out to a dealer first, and sometimes they're reaching out to a manufacturer first. Is that right? Or
Absolutely, yes. And
okay.
like you've had her on your podcast, Liz Hunsicker,
Yeah.
the Hayworth rep.
Yeah.
She's out there talking about the benefits of Hayworth products, and
hmm
we're the dealer that sells that. So
hmm
yeah, a lot of times it's like, hey Liz, last time you were in, you talked about so and so, this and
Yeah.
that, and then yeah, I mean she's able to carry her own without a doubt on that
hmm
conversation. But when it gets to the actual specification and products and ordering.
Yeah.
That like we were saying, all those different parts that you have to specify. That's where we really come in, kind of make that happen, get the true budget. We're the ones that get it on order, and then install it as well.
hmm And you guys, would you help a lot more with the layout of the space and deciding, okay, how many desks do they need and where do they need them and things like that, more so than what a manufacturer would? Or does it kind of is that responsibility kind of shared in some cases?
That's where we have the conversation with
Okay.
the interior designers at the firms about that. Yeah, it's hey, will again, a lot of that they can do. They can look at a space and say, would a 6x7 workstation work? Would a 7x7? What kind of spacing can we have? We do that every day. As
hmm
well. So, hey, here's what we got. And we love this product, and it's available in these sizes. Can you help us make that work? So
hmm
yeah, we do a lot of the um yeah, trying to make their vision work with the actual products. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've seen our value is that's the customer comes up with their idea, working with the A&D firm, and then they are looking for that finite material to make it actually happen.
hmm Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Well, good. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about as far as the furniture business or the
Yeah,
design world, or
I think
that we covered a
you
lot,
know
but
what I'm just amazed by the Birmingham, A&D, Huntsville, and I've covered a lot of places, but the amount of it just seems everybody is very, very on board with helping each other. It's a very friendly market, and there's so many opportunities. I think one day I was talking to you. I'm just like, how cool is it? We get to do this for a
yeah.
living in this
Uh-huh.
industry, and I mean, I've sold flooring, I've sold textiles, I've just sold the stuff that goes on chairs and made a living out of it. I mean, it's
hmm
incredible. It's awesome, and all of that is because of the architect and design firms, without a doubt. I mean, they keep this going, but it says there's business to be had, and just trying to do our best every day and able to make a living over it is absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah, I'm super thankful. I mean, I never would have dreamed that there was this, you know, cool way of doing business that you got to interact with the community that we get to interact with and build relationships in the way we get to. And man, I love it. I'm planning on being in it for the long haul, So
Yeah, absolutely. It's people say it's hard to get out of.
yeah.
I can't say any
Yeah.
different because here I
Yeah.
am. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah. That's
But
funny, man. Well,
so
cool.
but yeah,
Well, anything going on at Innerspace that you'd like to promote, or any events coming up, or
we
new
do.
products, or
Yeah,
just
we're we have a couple things coming up. April 9th or 10th. It's called Taco Bout Acoustics. And it's tacos, first of all, but second, it's a CEU on acoustics. And it's
nice.
more like what we've been talking. I mean, acoustics are huge, bigger than they've ever been. And it's not
Mhm.
just the booths, but it's also about creating spaces that are just a little bit more acoustically tight for
Yeah.
that privacy. And so, yeah, we have that coming up for the industry. Yeah, talk about it's a Hayworth CEU that we're doing pretty soon. One of our main manufacturers, AIS, they have a brand new launch of some lounge furniture. And so we're going to have a big event bringing in all
Nice.
those as well. So that's one of those to be continued things. And then
Do you
hopefully
have
with,
dates for any of those things, either the Taco
yeah, let's
Bout
say
acoustics or
it's
the
April 9th or 10th, whatever that Tuesday
Okay.
is. I'm on the spot
Yeah,
right
sorry.
now.
I'll
And it's
link
all
it in the
right.
notes, and that way,
Okay.
if there's an event link or something like that, I'll put it in here, and that way, if people can make it, they can find some information about that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, man. So,
great. Well,
yeah.
cool. Well, man, thanks so much for being our guest, and I always enjoy talking to you, and this was no different. And so yeah, I really appreciate you being on, man. And the question that I try to end with is just always, let's talk about something that's bringing you joy in this season of life, and it could be a I mean, I've heard people say a new flavor of coffee. I've heard people say about a fun trip they're going on, or maybe a cool something work related, like a cool project or something like that. But yeah, like what's something in this season of life that's bringing you joy?
I tried to be a rock star for a while,
Mhm.
and so music is still a lot of it writing, a lot of it playing, but obviously with kids and everything, that's not a priority that I want to make, just getting out there and, late nights or anything. I have had the joy the last few years of at our church of teaching Sunday school music and having
Nice.
my kids be a part of it. A lot of hand
Oh,
motions, trying to get the kids going out. So that's it's just an absolute joy in my life.
yeah,
Every Sunday for about the last 4 or 5 years, and that just kind of keeps on going. And I
man,
think
that's so cool.
it's at some point my parents are gonna or they're gonna look at me and be like, parents, this stuff isn't cool, So I'm just gonna enjoy it as
Yeah.
long as I can,
Uh-huh.
And
Man, that
so,
is so cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
So,
love
but yeah,
that.
and you mentioned coffee. I'm 51. I started drinking coffee at 47. I was a
Really?
I would go to a Starbucks every day. I was with Milliken and I would get a tea and they started to know me. And one day a lady said, "Oh, your usual." And she gave me a coffee and I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to, man, this lady took the time and I'm just not that kind of guy. And yeah, I can live with this. The next day I come in, she sees me, it's a long line, and she just makes it for me.
That's
And
hilarious.
I've made up for that long gap with coffee. I drink so much of it now and enjoy Red Cat. Big fan
Yeah,
of Red Coat, Santos. Yeah, there's some
that's
great ones.
funny, man.
Yeah, Wild Roast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like, how did you make it 47? Did you have no caffeine or just no
no,
coffee
I
for,
did tea. Yeah, I didn't. Probably
okay,
when I
so
was in
yeah.
my early 20s, I didn't like it, and so I just
Okay.
never really went back again, and just trying to be polite, And they
Yeah.
hooked me. They hooked me
That's
good, man. They
hilarious.
know
They
what they're
got
doing.
you. It's
They
a
know what
good
they're
sales
doing. Yeah,
tactic. She
that's
knew what
right.
she was doing. Yeah. That's
The enabler.
hilarious.
Yeah. So
Well, cool. Well, and I
yeah.
love that about teaching Sunday school music. And I play guitar, not like I play guitar in my living room for me and my kid, not anything, like
Yeah.
people would
Yeah.
pay me to quit before they would pay me to play. But yeah, my little girl really likes ballet. And the other day
Oh wow.
I was playing a song and she just started doing all her little ballet moves while I was
Uh,
playing. And I mean, I teared up. I was like, this is
Without a
beautiful.
doubt.
Like
Yeah.
music with
It's a
your
connection, man.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just there's something deep in my soul that touches.
Yeah.
And so just thankful to hear you enjoying that as well. I mean,
Well,
it's just
I
yeah.
love to hear you say that. I don't get that part of it. I'm in a band called Dirty Curtain Room. It's a little trio, and this lady Misty's a terrific singer, and I write the song. Man, my kids
Nice.
could care less about hearing those songs or the new songs that I've written for it. Man, it's just oh man, yeah. It's so yeah. This is all I got, but I'm taking it. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. Well, that's
yeah,
cool.
man. Well,
Well,
yeah,
good.
dude. Thank you so much, man. It's just you're amazing. This podcast is amazing. You put me on it, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Well, I'm honored that you'd make time to do it. I know you got a lot of other stuff going on, and I really appreciate it. And also, I just want to say publicly, just thank you for um, yeah, a friendship and connecting with me and
Right
being
on.
willing to, you know, go to lunch or go to coffee with the guy that you don't know and kind of help me out in the ways that you have. And I really appreciate that. And it makes me want to be the same type of person for other people
Wow,
that are,
man.
and so thank you for doing that. Yeah, it's very much appreciated. And but yeah, so anyway, well, hey, if you've been
Thank
listening
you.
to this and you made it this far, thank you so much for checking it out. definitely reach out to Tim as you have needs for furniture and things like that. I know that Innerspace is doing a lot of really great things and would love to be a resource for you. If you like the podcast and you want to support it, the best way you can do that is to specify some South Cypress flooring. So
Right
there's
on.
my
Yeah.
plug. Use our products if you feel like this is beneficial, and that's the best way to do it. So I'm kind of joking, but not really. So,
No, I get it.
but
Yeah.
anyway, well, thanks for making it this far, and yeah, we really appreciate you listening.